Hi, everybody. Let me just get the technology going here, but welcome to Crushing Doubt's live Q&A every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. I'll be introducing that again as soon as I get my Instagram up, but here we go. Okay, looks like we are set to go. Guys, welcome to Crushing Doubt's Q&A every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. I am here, as always, to answer questions about mind-body experience. Now, what is that? We always want to start there. Even for people who have been here a lot, it's actually good to review just to remember why we do what we're doing here. But mind-body symptoms are physical symptoms that come from our mental experience. That can come from feelings, it can come from thinking, it can come from whatever's going on in your head. And why do I do this? Well, as many of you know, I suffered 8 years of chronic everyday back pain. But not only did I resolve that with mind body understanding, but as I looked back on it, I realized actually I've had mind body symptoms of many different kinds in my whole life. And this has been not only very enlightening, but it has allowed me to control acute symptoms, get rid of them entirely a lot of the time before they become anything, bigger. And it's also allowed me to get rid of seemingly chronic symptoms. And why do I say it that way? Because if I say that it's chronic, it lends credence to the idea that it really is something that's always there. You will have no symptoms that are chronically there unless you have an actual medical condition that has nothing to do with mind-body experience, which is very, very rare. Most of the time, there is mind-body experience even when you do have a medical condition. So there's a lot of the mind-body interaction, and we're going to talk all about it. But why do I do this Q&A? Because along the way, I found that I needed to get my questions answered to be able to feel comfortable and confident that I would get better. It just didn't make sense to me that I would, just will myself to believe something. I can't do that. I have too much skepticism. I'm too logical. I needed to think it through and make sure that the questions were answered. So we're going to get to the questions soon. I'm going to explain my system and how this all works. But let me say hi to a couple of people. Dorisa, I see you saying hi on YouTube. Good to see you here. She says, hi, Dan and everyone. Good to see you, Dorisa. I do love when she says and everyone too, because this is really becoming a very nice community, a mind-body community. And I think that's really important because we need to support each other, but we also need to be helpful to each other in this community. And one of the things I like about my community is that we're always bringing down doubt. And that means that we're not doing and saying things that make people worry they're not going to get better or send us off in some other direction that could be trouble. So I'll get to that in a bit. A couple people to say hi to on Instagram. Debbie Grubbs, good to see you here. I see you said hi, Dan, directly. Good to see you, Debbie. Rita, good to have you here. Tiger Link HCAFC has joined us here as well. Rita, thanks for saying hi. Lisa Lynn, thank you for joining us here. Please do let me know if you have any questions at all. Questions about what my system is, why I said what I said. And one thing I want to encourage you is the reason it's important to follow up on your questions is that I'm going to give you my best answers. But if they don't answer your question to your full satisfaction, you end up walking away with the exact same mind you had before, or at least the same question. And then you're stuck in the same mindset. So what I want to do is make sure to answer your questions, not only to the best of my ability, but I want to get feedback as to whether it did answer your question or not. Because when we answer your question, it changes what goes on here. When we change out what goes on here, it changes what goes on here. The whole body. I like to think of the body as an extension of my brain. It's just one big brain. It's expressing me in all sorts of different ways. Obviously, it is also a body, but to see it as an extension of the brain is very helpful. Now, I'm going to jump in with questions shortly, but I wanted to lay out the basics of my system. I know I do this each and every time, so I appreciate the patience of the people who follow this and have seen this before. It can be very good review anyway, but it's really gotten me good at giving a short version of what my system is. Here is what the system is. Essentially, symptoms happen for three main reasons, three main functions, and I call these the columns, which were organized based on when I first started consulting with people after I got better, the dividing a piece of paper into three columns to explain the experience, to be able to see these three different parts. And there are three different symptom functions. There's distraction, protection, and communication. The distraction function is the one that comes in when we have an unconscious emotion. So this is something I call the emotions column. If you have an emotion that's outside of your awareness that's really upsetting you and your mind needs to distract from it, that psychological defense comes in there. And this will start a symptom. Now, notice I said the word start. The emotions column is for the onset and uptick in symptoms. It's where the symptoms begin. Then, when the symptoms persist, why does that happen? Because we're expecting them to continue. We're having a thought process. So it starts with feeling and then it moves into thought. The thought part of this experience is the doubt column, and that function is about protection. The doubt column is like a helicopter parent. It thinks we're in danger all the time, even though we generally are not at all. And it makes us worry or perpetuates our worry or comes up with a new worry. And those thought processes stay the same until we get our questions answered or our fears down or our confusion settled or we get certain. There's 4 forms of doubt: fear, confusion, lack of certainty, and questions. Unanswered questions. We've got to get those all settled more and more to be able to understand what's happening. So our thought process changes, and that breaks us out of the cycle that keeps the symptoms going. So again, emotions column are there for distraction. They're for the onsets and upticks in symptoms. The doubt column is describing the part of our experience that is a thought process where we get stuck in the same thoughts and then the symptoms stay the same. So that's the longevity piece. But nothing's actually chronic. I call it consistently acute. It's consistent, it's always there, but it's acute because it can be made to go away at any time. Now, the third column, the power column, is about your relationship with you. That's something that we see in symptom plateaus. You don't really discover power column symptoms all that much until doubt comes down and you discover more about the specifics of your emotions. That's the flow of things. Bring doubt down, understand your emotions very specifically, and then everything flows towards power, your relationship with you. Symptoms come in a plateau when you're recognizing a power column symptom. That's when doubt is down enough that you can even see anything and you understand your emotions enough to control a lot of the acute stuff, but there's a kind of low level hanging around. That's a power column symptom. But the power column is also useful even after symptoms. It is about making changes to your emotional life. So the doubt column is about thinking. The emotions column is about recognizing your emotions, just the awareness of it. And then the power column is where you go to make adjustments emotionally, to figure out what's going on in your life and how to make it different. Each column has a bunch of tasks that I've created or come to understand are the necessary tasks in that column to do the work. And it's not that much. It might sound overwhelming at first, but it is actually meant to make less work. I was just talking, Karen Isaacs, thanks for joining us here. Karen and I were talking in the group, which I'll get into in a bit, about the idea that at first she found the columns, oh my God, it's more work that I have to do. But she really did agree with this, and I certainly agree with it. They're meant to simplify enough so that you actually have less work to do. That's part of the goal, is to be able to understand it, feel totally confident you're going to get better, and actually have less work to do because it's, simplifying everything and organizing everything for you. Okay, that's the system. Let's get to the questions and answers. The reason it's so important to ask your questions is otherwise the doubt will continue or the emotion won't get discovered or you'll feel out of power. So the columns answer everything. Use them as your backbone. That's funny, actually, pun. I hadn't thought about it when I said it. But let's jump in with some questions. Okay, Teresa said, I have a victory this week, two days in a row of a couple hours of deep sleep. Okay, great news about the victory, Teresa, and I'm so happy for you. I want to extend this further because I'd like you to get a couple of hours of deep sleep all the time. But this is a good start, and what I'd like to, what I hope we can do is to tie whatever happens in your physical life to what's happening in your emotional life. Because if that can happen, you're going to feel more confident that this can work, that it really is the mind that's controlling these symptoms. And Teresa, I know you've been working at this for certainly enough time that you and I've heard what you've said. You get this a lot. You understand the mind is controlling a lot of what happens physically. Maybe we need to extend our victories over doubt so it's happening even more. But the more you see that connection, that basic connection, the mind equals the body, the more leeway you'll have to make more gains. Okay, let's find out more. Teresa then said, so live in the doubt column, but working on how not staying in that. Okay, so that's a good it's a good statement for me to say something about this. What Dorisa is essentially referring to is, I think, Dorisa, you're saying that you still spend a lot of time in that doubt column, meaning that you're having a doubt related experience. You're having doubts. And as you know, Dorisa, and this is for everybody, I want people to live in the power column. I want the doubt column shrunk as little as possible. I want as little as possible doubt going on. And then I want you to discover your emotions column themes, meaning what are the main things that upset you and why? It's like a menu. You can look at your menu and be like, okay, I'm having a symptom right now. What's going on? Is it this theme? Is it this theme? Is it this theme? That gives you insight so that you can figure out what it is. If you figure out what it is, it becomes conscious and the distraction goes away. So those functions, you take away the function, you take away the symptom. You take away distraction in the emotions column, take away the symptom. You help the doubt column recognize you don't need to protect me anymore. That symptom goes away. In the power column, I actually don't think I said this, so I actually kind of left you on a cliffhanger. The function of symptoms in the power column is communication. It is meant to get you information about you and how you are centrally living so that you can align with yourself better. That's the goal. Once you do that, you take away the symptom function and that symptom goes. So 3 columns, 3 functions. There are kind of tasks within each. And when you master these columns, you get control over acute symptoms in the emotions column, seemingly chronic ones in the doubt column, any plateaus in the power column, and then you get to live your life in the power column instead of in the doubt column. So I'm glad you're working on that, Dorisa. You want to move out of the doubt column and into the power column as fast as possible. Scotty Styles, thanks for joining us here on Instagram. Good to see you here. All right. Karen Isaacs has a comment or question. Hi, all. Yes, a great community. And one huge reason for my healing is because of community and feeling less alone on this path. Karen, I'm so glad to hear you say that and to know it. But the thing I'm most glad about is I get to see it. When I see you, not that I need to see it, but when I do see it in any one of you or happening for any one of you, I know how important this is. And this is one of the reasons that I created this community is when I was getting better, I didn't have any sense of that community at all. And one of the things that's hard for symptom sufferers is, generally speaking, they're all alone in it. Nobody in their life knows about it. Nobody in their life is thinking about it that they are. I'm saying generally speaking, there can be people who have a friend or two who know about these things, but generally speaking, we're the ones who are going to know about it and no one else is. So when I was getting better, I could trust Sarno and me and no one else. And I didn't have that sense of community. And it is very important to have a sense of community. I will add one thing, though, that I think is particularly good about this community, in addition to how supportive and kind it is that it is a community that does not raise doubt. This is incredibly important. There are a lot of mind-body communities that can be incredibly helpful. But if you go to that community and the things they say there are spiking your doubt, it's going to get toxic for you. So one of the things that I really look out for here is let's all work together to keep doubt down, to understand why we can all get better and why this can all make sense. There's one assumption I ask people to make in my work, which is you make sense and your symptoms make sense. Why is that? First of all, it's true. But secondly, it keeps doubt down. So I'm going to say one last thing about community. Let me say hi to a couple people. A Peaceful Parent, thanks for joining us on Instagram. And it is Layla has joined us here as well. Layla, good to see you. So Karen, I'm sure you will agree with this. Rudemaster27, good to see you here as well. Thanks for joining us on Instagram. And please do let me know if you have questions. So Karen, I think you will agree with this because we've talked about it before. But the group is another aspect of our community. And I wanted to talk about the difference between group and this Q&A, because there's one thing that, they have in common, which is you're going to ask me questions and I'm going to give answers. That happens in both situations. But one of the reasons that I find the group so helpful, even though there are multiple reasons, is that we can get much further in each sitting, because when somebody has a question or a comment, I might have multiple questions. And you might have multiple questions. And the thing that I then say might generate another question. And the thing you say might generate another question to me. So there's a lot more back and forth in a very short period of time that informs me much better about how to get you a great answer. I can get you good answers here, and I'm going to give lots of good answers. But in those groups, which are Zoom calls, they're private Zoom calls, they're not recorded. So people can kind of settle in more comfortably, ask their questions, and they can get more questions on the table. I can get more accurate answers to them, and I can get my questions answered when asking you, when answering your questions. But it also does build community. There, people get close in there. We're supporting each other. We learn about each other, and I do think that's a big part of the healing. So thanks for that comment, Karen. And by the way, if you're interested in the groups and you want to find out more, you can email me, dan@crushingdoubt.org. Or if you want to join them, you can go to my website, www.crushingdoubt.org. You can also get my teaching seminars there. These are pre-recorded videos that I did of an actual seminar where people attended and they asked live questions in part of it. And the seminars are designed to give you every bit of information you need on mind-body experience and on why people in the mind-body field say one thing at one time and another at another time, or why does this person say this and this person say this? I'm trying to get you comprehensive answers, because if you don't have comprehensive answers, your doubt stays high. So that's another thing you can get on my website, and feel free to ask me questions about that. Okay, Scotty Siles said, yes to community. We're all in the same parade. Yes, absolutely. And I love your emojis. Thanks for sharing that. So we'll keep it up. This community is growing. Oh, actually, let me say one last thing about community, which is that I've been thinking a lot about this and kind of leading the charge, but my team and I, we got together and we were realizing, there's a way to build even more community. We're going to use my website in the coming weeks. We're going to get the website to a place where there's more community building, more places to go to understand these issues, to find out more about them, to maybe interact with each other. But it's also going to be a framework where you can go to your own profile on my website, and it'll list all the things. If, let's say, you bought the seminars and then a year later you want to see them, they're on your profile. If you don't know where the membership links are, it's going to be on your profile. So we're starting to bring everything into a centralized location. In addition, group members are going to be able to ask questions in a particular way that's similar to this, except those questions are going to get submitted and answered, and then they stay there for group members to see. So there's like a database of questions that's coming. So we're building more and more community, and I keep thinking about, what do you all need? That's part of why I'm doing this. I'm giving you guys what I wished I had had. And I keep thinking, oh, you know what? Now I actually remember I wished I had this part. Or wouldn't it be great if we had this? So we're going to keep building in that way. So I will keep you letting you know that. If you want to know updates about things, you can get on my newsletter. That is at my website, www.crushingdoubt.org. Okay, Chip Baker, thank you for joining us here. Chip actually has a YouTube channel of his own you should check out. And I'm going to be going on his channel to do an interview. His channel is all about success. How do we define success? So I'll be doing an interview on that. Chip, when is that? That's in 2 weeks from today, April 18th. So look out for that. That, I believe, is at 2:30 Eastern, 1:30 Central. And I'm looking forward to talking with you on that, Chip. And please do let me know if you have questions here. It'd be great for us to talk in advance as much as you would like. Okay, Rhiannon has a question or a comment. Here we go. Rhiannon said, hi, Dan. We talked a bit about this the other day, but I would be interested to hear your views about why mental health issues seem to be rapidly rising in society. What do you think is going on? Okay, thank you so much for asking this question, Rhiannon. And we did have a great discussion about this. And I'm going to share some of the basic stuff that we talked about, but then let's all do follow-up. Ask questions about this. So here's what I basically told Rhiannon. Because sometimes people worry. Well, actually, Rhiannon, you were saying you were worried that you had gotten past the physical symptoms. You had brought down the doubt so much there that you had that under control, but you started to have doubt about issues, about symptoms that were manifesting through like anxiety or something more mentally related. And I was saying, well, actually, it's very important that we think about the mental side of things, or the thinking side of things, as symptoms, just like anything else. I want to think about it just like back pain or anything else. They're all symptoms. Now, why is it so out of control today? It really is true. There's more mental health issues today than there used to be, at least in a certain way. However, I do want to say this. Some of that's perception. A lot of the time, previous time periods, people just weren't talking about it, or it was getting buried and not handled well. Sometimes they were just drinking it away, or they actually would have physical issues and they would have lowered lifespan. So I actually think there's been mental health issues throughout our society for a long time. However, I do think there are reasons it's up right now. Now, I'm going to list what some of them are. First of all, and I write about this in my book, which should be about 2 months. Getting close to the end of the final edit, which I'm excited about. But there are two main parts of our philosophical thought process that have really gone awry, that have led to a major increase in mental health issues. One is this idea that the mind and body are separate. Jazz Sax Sailor, I want to say hi to you, and it is Layla. I see your question. I'm going to get to you in a sec. But this idea that the mind and the body are separate comes from a movement that actually started with Plato and then got really resurrected in huge form with Descartes in 1700s France. Not to get too far afield, but the main idea is this concept of dualism. The mind and body are separate. Well, if that happens, then we're going to start to have separate problems because we're not seeing them together. So mind-body problems that are manifesting in the body start to just be body problems, and we're not solving them because they're separate. Well, the same thing is happening with the mind. Now they're just being regarded as mind problems. They're not being regarded as, oh, but you're having physicalized anxiety too. So the separation of mind and body has become a real problem in both directions. There's also a movement in philosophy called postmodernism. Postmodernism has been absolutely horrible. Postmodernism is the idea that everything's subjective. I'm oversimplifying, but this is the basic gist. If everything is subjective, that means nothing is objective. We can't rely on any given truth, and that makes our anxiety start to rise. It's just like I'm saying with doubt. It's essentially, it's like a recipe for the doubt column to take over the world is postmodernism. Nothing makes sense. Doubt column, doubt goes up and up and up. And that's what's really happening. We're having more mental health issues because we have more doubt. We're also having it because people are starting to label things in these very specified ways that not only don't make sense and don't make sense of who we are, but they make us feel even more in danger. We are categorizing, we're kind of thinking of ourselves as physically weak and in physical danger all the time. But we're also thinking about that mentally. We're describing ourselves as mentally more unhealthy. And then we're starting to think about ourselves that way. And then it continues on and on and on. So that's all going up. Now, in the meantime, we've got social media bombarding us with lots of information. So we've got a more educated society in some ways where more people are aware of psychology and talking about it, but they're also talking about it in ways that are scary and get us down the wrong path. So these are just some of the reasons that we have increased mental health issues. But I would say the main reason is people are not really synced up with themselves. It's really a power column issue that then becomes a doubt column issue. We're not synced up with ourselves, and then we start to have all sorts of doubt. And in fact, we are taught to doubt ourselves. We're taught everything's subjective, and you don't know best, and be open to other things. Being open to other things is good, but if you're so open to other things that you can't be certain about anything, your anxiety is going to go up and up and up. So we're not, well, there's many reasons. I would also say that actually we've also, interestingly, we focus on being more open, but we're scared to be open. So we're actually closing off more than we used to. So Rhiannon, some of these are different answers than I gave you before, but they all flow towards the same thing. Essentially, we're scared out of our minds. We have lots of reasons to be scared out of our minds, seeming reasons. But if we can calm down and recognize, no, actually, we don't need to be this scared, then actually all these mental health issues will go down. If we continue to categorize ourselves, though, as fragile and that there are all these disorders that come, I don't even use the term disorder about anything because it pigeonholes us into the idea that we got a problem and that problem is going to continue. And then your brain expects it to continue. So that's, I would say it's a short version, but I gave a long version. But Rhiannon, I want to hear from you and from anyone else what they think about that. It's a very important, great question. Just the kind of question I want to get kind of put on the members site, so that people can look back at these questions and see those answers and refer back to them. The internet and social media is driving a lot of this too. I see Karen, actually, let me jump in about that. Karen said, I think social media and the news are why so many people are struggling. I know when I take breaks, I feel so much better physically and mentally, emotionally. Also, when I get outside nature, all as well. Yeah, we're living a lot of our lives in an interior format. There's lots of different ways. When it comes down to it, though, it comes down to, are we afraid or are we certain and able to live in that power column, able to live happily with ourselves? Much more I can say about it. And great question, Rhiannon. Let me know if that helps. It is Layla. I see you say agree with Karen. You and me both. Okay, now let me get to your question. It is Layla. Whenever I make progress, it's almost always followed by what if thoughts. How can I ever overcome those? Okay, so the first thing I want to say is that doubt's favorite words are but or what if. It loves that sort of thing. It just wants to get you going. So how can I overcome those is the question Layla asked. Ultimately, this comes down to how can you be confident that doubt is wrong, and how can you become certain? Well, there's 3 levels of doubt. Level 1 doubt is, do I have a mind-body issue or not? Level 2 doubt is, even if I have a mind-body issue, is this symptom as easy to conquer as others? And level 3 doubt is, can I conquer it? Is there something about me that's going to stop things? So, Layla, level 1 and 2 doubt are doubts that you can conquer with science and logic. If you look at what does the science say? If you look at what does the logic say? What does our history say? What does my own history say? If you look closely enough, those doubts are going to crumble fast. Level 3 doubt is where we may run into more trouble, more what ifs, more buts, because we can't use science and logic to conquer doubts we have about ourselves. However, there is something, I have good news for you. There's something we can do about it anyway. Level 3 doubt is conquered in the in the power column. That's where, if we can become certain about who we are, why we've been the way that we have been, what we can do about it, you can get certainty there also. Essentially, it comes down to this, Layla. If it makes full sense to you, you're going to be certain. You can even think about this in your own life in various ways. There are things you're certain about. If you think about those, how much time do you spend on what if questions in those areas? It's probably 0 because you already are certain. So how do we make you certain? Science and logic, and the internal logic of you through the understanding in the power column. Layla, I want you to follow up on that and tell me if that made sense enough and answered your question enough. All right. All right. Jazz Sack Sailor has a question. Just wondering if recurring bad dreams with the same theme fall into the power column, how to learn from them. All right. Interesting. Here's what I would say. Recurring bad dreams are expressing a recurring emotional experience. However, it could be expressing something in the emotions column or the power column. Ultimately, yes, it's going to be about the power column, but why am I saying these 2 columns in this situation? Well, one is this. If you're really not even aware of what's going on emotionally, that's going to be more of an emotions column expression. The emotions column is something that gives you the chance to become aware, but it's there because of distraction. So the dream could be a manifestation of that distraction. Oh, I keep having this. And if you just stay focused on that, you never get to what the awareness was. So you said how to learn from them. The first step would be, let's decode these. Let's use the emotions column themes to understand what makes you upset and why, and see, is something like that happening in your life right now? However, the fact that it's recurring and it's emotional, that does point in the direction of the power column overall. So I want you to get awareness in the emotions column. But the power column is where we solve this. And Jazz Sack Sailor, I think you'll find this particularly fascinating based on your question. I think this will be good for everybody. When it comes to dreams, I found something really interesting as I stepped into power. And that was my dreams started to change. Changing dreams is a sign that your power column is shifting. So I used to have dreams where I would be powerless. I couldn't do the things that I actually wanted to do in my own dreams. And if you think about it, what's more disempowering than that? You can't even do something in your own dreams that you want to do. I couldn't, if I wanted to like talk to somebody, I felt shy even in my dreams. I couldn't enact, I won't get into TMI, but I couldn't enact things sexually or aggressively in my dreams in the ways that I wanted to back then. I couldn't even, there was this funny thing where I would try to, if I was throwing a ball, because I'm a pretty big sports fan, if I was throwing a ball or trying to make a basket or something like that, I couldn't get any power into it. And I remember thinking, what is this about? Well, it is about a lack of power. And when I started to become powerful, all that started to change. I can throw a ball any way I want to in a dream now. I can stick up for myself in a dream. I can even shift the dream. I can be like, oh, this is starting to get in trouble. I don't want to go here. So dreams are expressing a lot about power. I think you're right on. How do you learn from them? You learn from them by decoding and understanding what are they saying, so that and you use the emotions column to do that. Although you can also use your core narrative because the core narrative is like a condensation of all those emotional themes. When you get that emotional information organized, you're going to be able to understand what they're saying. That's the first step in learning from them. Then the next step is to see when you start to make changes to your power column in your regular life, it's going to change in your dreams. So, Jazz Sack Sailor, let me know if that made sense to you, if I said enough to answer your question. Okay. Scotty Styles, I see that you are looking for emojis for crushing doubt. I like it. We'll find it. Keep it up. Let me know if you find one, and I'll work at it as well. Layla says, that makes sense. Thank you. It's my pleasure, Layla. I think that's going to be really helpful for us to keep in mind that ultimately this is all about it making sense to you, not to me. I mean, for me, it's about making sense to me, but it's got to make sense to you. It doesn't matter what I think, because your mind is the one you carry around with you. The more it makes sense, no matter what it is, the better this will go. Okay, Jeannie Colwyn Coaching, thanks for joining us here. Jeannie, I owe you an email back. I'm looking forward to connecting with you, and thanks for your patience on that. All right, Jane Smith, and let me know if you have questions here, Jeannie. All right, Jane Smith, good to see you here. Thanks for saying hi, Jeannie. Good to see you. Okay, Jane says, hi, Dr. Dan and Dorisa and everyone. Good to be here. I sure thought about what you said regarding being in your own corner so long as no one else needs anything. Wait, hold on. Actually, let me read that again and make sure I'm getting that. I sure thought about what you said. Sometimes people quote back what I said, and I need to make sure that I remember what I said. So I sure thought about what you said regarding being in your own corner. So being fiercely in your own corner is something I say in the power column. And I add the word fiercely because a lot of times we're generally in our own corner, but being fiercely in our own corner is deciding to go the extra mile. So long as no one else needs anything. Yes. Okay. So yeah, a good way to be powerful. Sometimes we restrict ourselves from being powerful because we think, oh my God, what about other people? That sort of thing. I do like to take care of other people. I do like to be considerate of other people. I am a goodist, as Sarno put it. Goodists are always looking out for other people. I've just learned how to hone that better so that I can be a goodist and take care of other people in the way that I want and interact with them the way I want to, but then also take care of me. And sometimes it's not worth, quote, taking care of someone else who's actually not only not taking care of you, but is attacking you or wants to bring down your power. When it comes to power, you being powerful doesn't weaken anyone else. There's room for everyone to be powerful. So learn how to be powerful, and you're kind of modeling how they can be powerful. Okay, now Jane had a question. How are my seasonal allergies TMS? Now, TMS is tension myositis syndrome, which is what Sarno called mind-body issues. He started naming it that just about back pain, but then saw that it extended to other areas, in fact, all areas. Then we've got other terms for it. PPD is psychophysiologic disorder. Mind-body syndrome is another. I don't use disorder or syndrome myself. Sometimes I use TMS kind of as an old shorthand, as an homage to Sarno. But the main thing is just getting across the idea that the mind and body are doing things together in tandem, and it has meaning. Neuroplastic conditions is another one. There's tons of them. Central sensitization is another version of that. I just call them mind-body symptoms or mind-body issues. But how are my seasonal allergies TMS or mind-body issues? I'm in the car again and might lose connection. All right. So seasonal allergies, in my experience, are all mind-body. And it's interesting because they're pretty common. A lot of people have these. And so people might say to me, but, the pollen count is up, or, it's the ragweed is in the air, or it's hay fever. In my experience, so many of our symptoms are actually mind-body symptoms, but they're clinging on to ideas. They're clinging on to ideas that society has put out there that are potentially plausible. The more potentially plausible a symptom is based on a physical experience, the more likely mind-body symptoms are going to grab onto that. So a lot of people talk about seasonal allergies. It's hanging out there for us, for people to catch on to. So if you start to get an itch in your nose all of a sudden, which, by the way, just even considering that idea, I started to get it. That's how mind-body symptoms work. If you've got that hanging in the air, not literally in the pollen sort of way, but hanging in the air in the metaphorical sort of way, it's a ready-made place for you to interpret your body's experience in that way. Now, think about biofeedback. Biofeedback is a thing where you're monitoring what's going on physically, and by monitoring what's going on physically, you can start to control what's going on physically. Well, this is the opposite. This is like negative biofeedback, where you're monitoring what's happening, but you're monitoring it based on a belief that something is wrong. And that belief that something's wrong is going to make your nose start to itch or your eyes start to water. And then it goes on and on and on. And if you believe you have it, then you've got that thought process in your mind and it can just continue. However, if you pay attention to these symptoms and you pay attention to what's happening with doubt, you will see they do not make sense. People with seasonal allergies, they say, "Oh, the pollen count's high." Well, really, if you're going to do that, then do a good science experiment and pay attention. If you have symptoms every single time the pollen count is high, I'm just using pollen as an example, then I could see that correlation. That's not what happens. They're not being good scientists, and I don't mean that critically. I actually mean it supportively of them. But if they start to look at it, they're going to see there are days where the pollen count's high and you didn't even know that it was high and you didn't have allergies. Do the science. Take a look at it. So, how are your seasonal allergies mind-body? Mind-body issues can express anything. If the physical process is there, the mind can take it over. How? The mind has these chemical messengers. It's really the hormone system, really. It goes through the bloodstream. Chemical messengers from the brain can control any cell in your body to do virtually anything it can do. So it can mimic seasonal allergies. Just from this conversation, my nose feels all weird and has since we brought this topic up. It's not going to continue. I have, doubt is trying to say, "Oh, now you got this." Guess what, doubt? I'm onto you. Not going to happen. But I'm dipping into that conversation. I'm willing to have that conversation, even though it gives me a little symptom at first, because I know it's all nonsense. If you look closely enough at doubt, it always crumbles. Okay, Jane, I hope I answered your question well enough, but please do let me know. Okay, then Rhiannon said, "Thanks, Dan. So great to hear your views on this." My pleasure, Rhiannon. It's such a great question for us to continue as a community. Let's keep talking about this. Why does mental health seem to be in a worse place than it was, and problems on the rise? I think my answers give us some clues, but ultimately it is simply about fear is up, doubt is up. Most people don't even know to be looking for doubt. So that's a huge reason that it's on the rise. Okay, thanks, Rhiannon. Okay, Vicky Miller, thanks for joining us here. Let's see. Also, I want to say, if I ever miss a question or seem to be missing a question, bring it back. I don't want to miss questions for multiple reasons. One, I want to get you answers. But secondly, my goal is to have you all feel really seen. If I miss your question, that's not seeing you, and I apologize if that happens. But please know, it is never meant that way, and I want you to come back to it. Okay? All right. Jeannie, I see you said that you're looking forward to connecting as well. Can't wait. All right. Layla says, "Oh, I like that question." I think that was when I was answering Jane's question about seasonal allergies, but I'm not sure. This is another way that group is a little smoother, as I would know. But hopefully I got the right idea about that. Now, Layla then says, "I'll ask, how are fasciculations TMS or mind body?" So fasciculations are twitches in the muscles. Any symptom is mind body unless it is caused by a condition that's purely medical. I mean, like when I had COVID, that was just COVID. Most of that was driven by the actual virus. However, I also had a mind-body experience that probably drove some other symptoms underneath it. But when it comes to something like fasciculations or really any symptom that you have, that can not only can be mind body, but almost always is mind body. Well over 99.99999% of all of your symptoms are mind body expressions. Think about it. This is very common, actually, Layla. People, when they're tired, they get eye twitches. And people say, oh, it's because you're tired. Your muscle's tired. Well, okay, your muscle's tired, but why there? Why right there when you're tired? Guess what? It's because you want to close your eyes and go to sleep. That's why it's happening there. Now, if it's happening everywhere, which I know yours often are, it's because you don't feel safe anywhere. It's not just about sleep. It's about the whole body. That's why it's expressing that. So how are fasciculations mind-body manifestations? Well, your muscles, listen, when I move my muscle, this is a mind-body experience right here. Your face, everything about it is a mind-body experience. When you smile, it's because usually it's because you're happy. Sometimes not, but mostly, yes. And it's an emotion that changes your face. When you're embarrassed, blood rushes to your face. That's a mind-body change also. We've got tons of these. Crying is a mind-body experience. You feel sad, or sometimes even happy can make you cry, but the emotion changes your tear ducts. Your feelings and your thoughts can change any system and any function in your body and make it do what it wants. So the idea that fasciculations could be mind-body it's a no-brainer. Sorry for the pun. Anything can be, but essentially it's an overall discomfort. And what you're going to find is your symptoms are often expressing exactly what you're feeling. If you sneeze, you're slightly irritated. If you feel nauseated, you can barely tolerate what's happening. If you are in a tremendous amount of pain, you're actually emotionally hurting. And if you are twitching all over and feeling uncomfortable generally, that's what you're feeling. Layla, I want to know if you said or tingling. Same thing though. It's like tingling you could think of it as I'm hyper attuned to my body. I don't feel, I'm constantly checking in on it. That's what's happening for you. Now, hopefully that makes sense to you, because it doesn't matter if it makes sense. I mean, it matters if it makes sense to me, for me, but for you, we got to make sure it makes sense to you. So let me know. Okay. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. And Teresa said, not only you feeling the allergies as we talk about it. Yep. Listen, this is the same thing as when people say the word yawn, you're more likely to feel like you might yawn. I'm feeling it right now. I just suddenly feel that in my throat. If you read the word yawn or somebody says it, or if you see someone yawn, they're more likely to have it. So thanks for that validation, Teresa. It's important that we sync up on the fact that many people are having these experiences. Okay, then Karen says this is about dreams, which was related to Jazz Sailor's question. Oh boy, I have 4 recurring ones. 5 theme reoccurring bad dreams. 1 is plus 40 years. Still can't figure them out. Good topic for group. Yeah, and Karen, we can figure those out. I don't care how long they've been. I just don't think they've been decoded enough. And I've got some ideas even about the ones you've told me, but use that as information. Your symptoms are information. Your dreams are information. In fact, I say that symptoms are actually like a waking dream. They're happening right there. It's one of the reasons I love working with them. Therapists often want to work with dreams, but you may not remember your dreams. You're not having them right now. They were unconscious. They're encoded. So dreams can be really useful, but symptoms are happening right there. We can interpret it. It's as if you're having a dream right there, right then. And that's why they're so great at getting us information. So we can get that information and it changes things when we do. Okay. All right. Jane Smith says, thanks, Dr. Dan. Not sure how to start tackling my quote allergies. I've been having some bad episodes and can't even think straight when I'm not feeling well. Okay. Oh, hold on. Wait till it passes. Not sure I can do anything else. I have good news for you, Jane. There's always something to do in the columns. The columns, in fact, they're very helpful at organizing what symptom is happening when, and when you can recognize which column you're working in, you're going to know what to do. Now, here's the thing. Your seasonal allergies, they could have some kind of emotional relation, but here's the thing. If doubt is there, you've got to work there first. So don't wait till it passes. Get to work on doubt. Get this proven to yourself with science and logic that these are not seasonal allergies. This is a doubt manifestation. That's exactly what it is. It wants to hide in the symptom, And that, listen, what doubt wants to do is collect symptoms it can rely on. It wants to protect you. So it wants to build up every symptom. This is a symptom it has well built up. Society keeps saying it's right. And therefore, you end up thinking, oh, yeah, this is just a symptom that I can't even do anything about. Listen to even what you're saying. And I don't mean it critically, I mean it supportively. Not sure I can do anything else. That's doubt right there. Yes, you can. You can recognize this is a doubt. We can nail it to the wall, take away this symptom so it can't use it, and then get back to the emotional processing and power column work. Jane, I'm really interested to hear what you think about what I just said. Okay, let me know if you have time to respond, or we can continue it next week. All right, Scotty Styles says, if the brain expects allergies, the brain will create allergies. Exactly. It's like a prediction error from the brain. That's what all of these symptoms are when it comes to doubt. Our expectations dictate what happens. I'm just at a part of the book where I'm editing this part of the book because it's already written. But this is about the fact that whiplash is not a concept that exists in certain places. It doesn't exist in Lithuania, as an example. Why? Because they don't expect it. They get into a car accident and they think they're going to be sore for maybe a couple days. They don't expect to potentially get whiplash and be stuck with it all this time afterwards. The expectations change it. So, Scotty, thank you for that support. I totally agree with you. Okay, Dorisa says, thank you, Dan. Some great topics and questions today. I totally agree. Love these topics. You guys ask great questions. And those questions are important for multiple reasons. First of all, you've got to get your questions answered if you're going to be confident that you know what's going on and why you're going to get better and how you're going to get better. But secondly, your questions help others think about their questions. Just like Layla was saying, oh, I like that question about allergies. It got her thinking about fasciculations in a certain way. So we're a community of question answerers and of question askers and answerers. But I hope we get better and better at answering these questions. And I hope that this was all helpful today. It was a pleasure, guys. I look forward to seeing you next week. I'll be here at the usual time. It's Thursdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. As always, you can check out my website for my resources, www.crushingdoubt.org. You can send me an email if you have any particular questions about those resources or what you can do to get better. And as I mentioned, we're building this community space on the website so you can have your profile and you can get access to those questions within group membership. But there's lots of ways to do it. And one of the reasons I give this is I sure wished I had this when I was getting better. So I hope it has been helpful. It's been great to see you all. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Take care.